Long ago, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and red earth, there lived a young woman named Ezinne. She was born into poverty. Her father had died when she was a child, and her mother, a palm oil trader, struggled to raise her and her younger siblings. Ezinne never went beyond primary school because her family could not afford the fees, but she grew into a striking young woman with clear brown eyes and a gentle spirit. Life was not kind to her, yet she carried herself with dignity. She hawked roasted plantain, cassava, and firewood in the village market to help her mother, and though she often went to bed hungry, she never complained. One day, while selling food at the roadside, she caught the attention of a man named Obinna. He was from a neighboring town and came from a family with some wealth. He was handsome, confident, and spoke with the charm of a man used to getting what he wanted. Obinna began courting Ezinne, promising her a better life, telling her he would marry her soon and lift her out of poverty. Ezinne, naive and yearning for love, gave her heart to him. Months later, she discovered she was pregnant. When she told Obinna, he smiled, patted her on the back, and assured her everything would be fine. Her mother was furious at first, but when Obinna's family came to pay a token bride price, the family was relieved that at least Ezinne would not be shamed. When the time came, Ezinne went into labor. After a difficult night of pushing and prayer, she gave birth not to one child, not to two, but 3 beautiful baby girls. The cries of the newborns filled the small hospital ward, and the nurses whispered in awe, "Triplets. What a blessing." But Obinna's face darkened when he heard the news. Instead of celebrating, he frowned, muttering under his breath. 3 girls. Only girls. What will I do with them? He visited the hospital once, pacing back and forth, refusing to touch the babies. Ezinne, weak from childbirth, pleaded with him. "Obinna, these are your children. They are blessings. They will grow to bring joy to you." But Obinna shook his head. In his heart, he wanted sons who would carry his name, sons he could boast about in the village square. He muttered something about wasting money raising useless girls and stormed out. The next morning, when Ezinne asked the nurses about her husband, they told her he had not returned. By evening, his phone was switched off. By the time she was discharged, she discovered the bitter truth: Obinna had abandoned her at the hospital, refusing to take responsibility for the children. Ezinne went back to her mother's small mud house with her 3 infants. Life became unbearably hard. She had no job, no savings, and no man to stand by her. Every morning, she strapped one child on her back, held another in her arm, and laid the third beside her as she roasted plantain or fetched firewood. Neighbors mocked her. "Ezinne, so this is the great man who promised to marry you. Where is he now?" Some even whispered cruelly. 3 girls. Waste of time. If they were boys, he would have stayed. But Ezinne refused to bow to shame. She toiled day and night, feeding her children little by little, often skipping meals so they could eat. Her hands grew callous from work, her back bent from carrying firewood, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. Years passed, and the triplets, Amora, Chisholm, and Ifunanya, grew into intelligent, kind-hearted children. Though they had no father, they excelled in school, winning prizes for reading, writing, and debate. Their teachers marveled. "These girls are gifted. They will go far in life." Ezinne sacrificed everything to keep them in school. She took extra jobs, cleaned houses, and even farmed on borrowed land. Her only prayer was, "God, let my daughters rise higher than I ever could." Despite the whispers of the villagers, Ezinne never allowed bitterness to poison her heart. Whenever her daughters asked about their father, she simply said, "He chose a different path, but you, my children, are my crown and my joy." One fateful year, the triplets entered a national competition in science and innovation. Their project, a simple but brilliant water filtration system made from local materials, won first place. They were awarded scholarships to study abroad. Newspapers carried their pictures, calling them the Golden Sisters. When the news reached Obinna, who had long since remarried and fathered sons, he was stunned. His heart burned with regret, and pride made him restless. He appeared suddenly at Ezinne's house, dressed in fine clothes, carrying gifts. "Ezinne," he said, I have come for my daughters. They are mine, after all. Let them come and bear my name proudly. But Ezinne stood tall, her hands folded across her chest. She looked him in the eye and said, "You left us when we needed you most. You abandoned them at birth because they were girls. Now that God has lifted them, you remember they are yours. A true father is not by blood alone, but by sacrifice, love, and presence. Leave, Obinna. These daughters are not yours anymore, they are mine." The villagers, who once mocked her, now clapped and cheered. Obinna left in shame, his head bowed. Ezinne lived to see her daughters become great women. Amora became an engineer, Chisholm a doctor, and Ifunanya a lawyer. They built her a fine house, cared for her, and honored her name wherever they went. Whenever people asked about their success, they always said, "We are who we are because of our mother. She carried us when no one else would, she fought for us when the world abandoned us." Years rolled by swiftly like the river after heavy rains. The triplets, Amora, Chisholm, and Ifunanya, had grown into remarkable young women. They had completed their studies abroad and returned to Nigeria with not just knowledge, but a fierce determination to uplift their mother and community. They built a clean water system for their village, established a small hospital in memory of their grandmother, and funded scholarships for poor children. Everywhere they went, people praised them. These are the daughters of Ezinne, the woman who raised them alone. Meanwhile, Obinna, their father who had abandoned them, lived in a neighboring city. Life had not been as sweet as he imagined. The wife he married after leaving Ezinne gave him sons, but none of them brought him peace. 2 of his boys had dropped out of school, one was in trouble with the police, and his business, once thriving, had collapsed. The wealth he once flaunted vanished like smoke in the wind. Now old, weak, and penniless, Obinna was tormented by shame. Whenever he heard the name of the Golden Sisters, his heart twisted with regret. He began to wander aimlessly, until one day, sickness struck him, and he had no one to care for him. Word reached the triplets that a frail, rugged man had been spotted near the village square, asking after them. Out of curiosity, they went with their mother. When they saw him, their hearts skipped. It was Obinna, the man they had never truly known. His once proud face was now lined with wrinkles, his clothes torn, his voice trembling. He knelt before them, his forehead touching the dust. "My daughters, forgive me. I was a fool. I abandoned you at birth, I despised you because you were girls. But look at you now, you are greater than I ever dreamed. Please, have mercy on me. Do not let me die a beggar." Silence fell. The villagers gathered around, watching. All eyes turned to Ezinne. Would she allow her daughters to help the man who had once left her to suffer alone? Amora, the eldest, spoke first. "Father or not, you left us. You wounded our mother deeply. But we cannot repay evil with evil." Chisholm, the second, added. "If we turn our backs now, we become no better than you once were. Our success is not only for ourselves, but to show the world that mercy is stronger than bitterness." Finally, Ifunanya, the youngest, said softly, "We will help you, but not as a father we love. We will help you as a man in need." They built him a small hut near the edge of the village and ensured he was fed and cared for. Yet they kept their distance, for the wound of his abandonment still lingered. One evening, Ezinne went to see him. He sat weakly on a mat, coughing, his eyes full of sorrow. "Obinna," she said firmly, "when you abandoned me in the hospital, I thought I would die. But I lived. When you turned your back on these girls, I thought they would suffer. But they rose. You see, it is not a man who gives glory, it is God. You despise daughters, but God used those daughters to shame your pride. Let this be a lesson for you, and for all men who look down on women." Tears rolled down Obinna's cheeks as he whispered, "Ezinne, you are greater than I ever knew. Forgive me." She looked at him for a long time before replying, "I forgave you long ago, for bitterness is too heavy a load to carry. But forgiveness does not erase consequences. You reaped what you sowed, Obinna." Months later, Obinna passed away quietly in his sleep. The villagers expected Ezinne and her daughters to rejoice, but instead, they gave him a proper burial, not out of love, but out of dignity. At his graveside, Amora said, "Here lies the man who gave us life but not love. His rejection became our strength, and his absence became our drive. May his soul find the peace he denied himself." After Obinna's death, the triplets continued their work, becoming a beacon of hope for women and children across the land. They told their story openly, teaching young girls that their worth was not measured by gender, but by courage, hard work, and determination. Years had passed since the death of Obinna. The triplets, Amora, Chisholm, and Ifunanya, had blossomed into women of influence. Their names traveled beyond their village, beyond their state, and even across the seas. But through all their achievements, they never forgot the woman who raised them with tears, sweat, and endless sacrifice, their mother, Ezinne. In the village, weddings were not just unions between man and woman, they were celebrations of family honor. As fate would have it, suitors of great renown began to arrive for the daughters of Ezinne. Amora, the eldest, caught the heart of a young governor's son. Not because of her beauty alone, but because of her wisdom and boldness. Chisholm, the second, was courted by a wealthy doctor from abroad who admired her compassion and strength. Ifunanya, the youngest, was loved by a brilliant lawyer who promised to support her dreams and never silence her voice. News spread quickly, the triplets of Ezinne are being sought in marriage by men of high standing. The villagers, who once mocked Ezinne for birthing only girls, now gossiped in awe. Women shook their heads in wonder, and men admitted their error. Indeed, children are children. A daughter can raise a house higher than a son. A date was set. The village square was decorated with palm fronds, raffia, and bright fabrics. Drummers beat the talking drum, flutes sang in the air, and the aroma of jollof rice and roasted goat filled every corner. But the most astonishing sight was not the brides themselves, it was Ezinne. Her daughters dressed her in a flowing wrapper of rich velvet, with beads around her neck, wrists, and ankles. A beaded crown sat gently upon her head. She looked like a queen, though she had once been a poor girl who sold plantain by the roadside. When she entered the square, people rose to their feet. Women ululated. Men bowed their heads. Children danced around her singing, "Mama Ezinne. Mama of queens. Mama of blessings." Before the marriage rites began, Amora, the eldest, stepped forward. She raised her voice so that all could hear. "People of our village, today we stand here not just as brides, but as daughters who were carried on the back of a great woman. Our mother, Ezinne, was abandoned, mocked, and despised. Yet she stood firm. She worked day and night to feed us. She gave us strength when we were weak. She is the reason we are here today." Chisholm continued. "We honor our husbands, but first, we honor our mother. Without her, there would be no Amora, no Chisholm, no Ifunanya. She is our crown, our hero, our true queen." Finally, Ifunanya lifted her hands and said, "From this day forward, let it be known across the land, a woman is not weak because she bears daughters. A woman is not cursed because she is abandoned. A woman is strong when she chooses to rise." And our mother rose, and made us rise with her. The crowd erupted in cheers, shouting Ezinne's name. Tears streamed down her face, not of sorrow but of love. The eldest women of the village came forward, led by the oldest matriarch. They placed their hands on Ezinne's shoulders and blessed her. "May your name live forever. May your daughters' children honor you. May the world never forget your story." From that day, Ezinne was no longer called Ezinne the poor widow or Ezinne the abandoned one. She was known as Ezinne the mother of queens. The weddings went on, filled with music, dancing, and laughter that lasted for days. Afterward, the daughters settled into their new lives, but they never left their mother behind. Wherever they lived, Ezinne lived with them, treated not as an old woman, but as a matriarch whose story became a guiding light. Generations later, mothers told their daughters the tale of Ezinne. They said, "Do not fear if life pushes you down. Rise. Do not cry if a man abandons you. Stand. For in every woman lies the power to turn shame into glory, just as Ezinne did." A mother's sacrifice is the foundation of greatness. Society may despise daughters, but God can raise them to honor nations. True royalty is not in wealth, but in perseverance, sacrifice, and love. The end.